Let's go.
Okay, what's your name?
I'm Elsa Shamash, nee Karplus.
And where were you born?
I was born in Berlin in 1927.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family?
My family?
Yes.
Well, my father's family had lived in Germany or the Austro-Hungarian Empire since, we know 1640, probably very much longer. They came from a little town which is now in the, I think in the Czech Republic, and it was called when my grandfather was born at Hotzenplotz. And now it's, Oblaha, I think. And my father was born in Borek, which is in Posen, which was Germany, but became Poland after 1919, after the Treaty of Versailles. And because of that, when we wanted to come to America, he was put into the Polish quarter. And that's why we never got to America. And my mother came from East Prussia, from Danzig, which was a free state. She changed nationality several times during her life because I think she was Prussian or German to start with. Then she became a citizen of Danzig, and then she became a German citizen when she married my father. And then, of course, she was British at the end. And right at the end of her life, she got a little bit confused as to her nationality, having changed it so often. Well, my mother's family, they were grain merchants, and my grandfather was pretty wealthy. My father's father, there were a lot of Rabbonim in the family. He was brought up, my grandfather was brought up very orthodox, so was my father, but my grandfather was going to be a rabbi, but he smoked on Shabbat and was thrown out of this yeshiva, I suppose sort of yeshiva, out of the rabbinical college, and he just became a teacher. Apparently, according to my father, he never earned a proper living. He preferred to spend his time playing chess. And he, unfortunately, died quite early. He died in 1912. My parents were much older. They were like a skipped generation. My mother was nearly 40 years older than I was, and my father was nearly 50 years older. He was doctor and one of the very first radiologists ever, because he said he started off as a radiologist, I think when he got married or possibly before, in the 1920s, and after all, X-rays were only discovered about 15 years earlier. He made a very good living in Berlin. He had been a confirmed bachelor, lived with his mother, because unfortunately all four of his siblings had died. Three of them in infancy, and his sister, after whom I'm called Elsa, died after childbirth. And to some extent, to start with, my father and his mother brought up my cousin, the only cousin I had on my father's side. On my mother's side, I was the 23rd and last grandchild of Simon Anker. So I was the youngest there, and I had 23 cousins, or 22 cousins on my mother's side, and one only on my father's. He was much older. He was 20 years older than I was, and my oldest cousins already had children, so they were great-grandchildren by the time I was born.
Did your mother work?
No, my mother would have liked to have gone to university, but she was born 1887, and there were, near Danzig, there were women couldn't go to university, so she trained as a teacher because that is the highest education she could possibly get. And then she traveled quite a lot. One of her brothers, Leo, actually took her on a cruise to Egypt and Palestine in 1911. And she'd also traveled to Spain by herself and sort of spent a year as an au pair teaching German and learning French in a Swiss finishing school in Lausanne.
Didn't
So
she
she
work
spoke
in the First World War?
fluent French.
Ask if she worked in the First
Turn it off, please.